Hello everybody and welcome back to another new video on the channel. Today I am bringing up a topic that I had mentioned some odd amount of time ago. It was actually like a month ago. I posted the video on November 25th and it's basically, if you saw my video before, the title of the video is the dumbest anime ship ever. I basically talk about why in my opinion, why I think Uraraka and Bakugo, like that ship, is really dumb and why I don't like it. And I remember what I said in the video, like a handful of things that I said in the video, and I initially made it private. And then before recording this video, I had decided to make it public again because, at this point, I don't honestly, care all that much anymore because I kind of want to talk about why, like, not only like further like cement like why I don't like this ship and why I think it's dumb, but just why, and just to talk about like why these people who ship these two together are really sensitive about this topic and then are really annoying. And don't take that as an insult. Like, please, I already know you're gonna take that as an insult, but try not to take it as an example. As an insult. I'm sorry. Don't take this as an insult. Just take this as something to improve yourself upon. Because if you're like this, improve yourself upon it. Be this type of person instead that ships you two together, and don't be like some of these people that I'm going to talk about. I'm not going to give out names. I'm not going to give out like their Twitters or like anything. I'm just simply talking about like how they acted towards me and how I just didn't appreciate it and just had a terrible time. Because the other day it was like Christmas Eve, or even like the day before Christmas Eve, and on one of my Twitter accounts, I saw a post that someone made, and the post was just four screenshots of someone like talking about the Uraraka and Bakugo ship, right? Excuse me. And basically what happened was there were a couple images that came out from some other person's like Twitter account, or like just images in general. I don't know if it's like fan art. I don't know if it's like official art that came from like the animation team, or like the artist from that studio, or like the mangaka, the creator for the manga or whatever. But it was art that shows like Uraraka and Bakugo, wearing outfits, and their outfit colors are very similar, in color. And the person kept on like stretching this whole thing, like, oh, these two are wearing similar and matching colors. That means they're gonna end up being together. I don't really remember what the post said, but it was something like revolving around that. And I decided to make a tweet saying, "Is this the length that people who ship these two together are going? This is really dumb. I don't understand why they're stretching it out to this much, or people who ship these two together really just like that delusional. A ship like this makes me want to, quote, kill myself. Yeah, I said it, and like in hindsight, like, and even afterwards, after like I stopped like replying to people, and I just stuck with my opinion, and I started muting people on Twitter. In hindsight, I understand that I probably shouldn't have worded myself like that. And a post that I actually made on Twitter afterwards, and even before that, actually before that, I said a couple of stuff that I probably shouldn't have said. I insulted a couple of people. I offended some people, and the way that I worded it was really bad. And I should have been, more professional about it. I should have been, a lot more appropriate about it. And I shouldn't have just, assaulted people, or assaulted people and insulted people for their opinions on two characters and end up being together. I shouldn't have insulted people's intelligence like the way I did, and I do acknowledge that, and I do apologize to those people. I did apologize to those people on Twitter, too specifically, and for what it's worth, they did accept my apology, and I do thank them for accepting my apology, because I didn't mean to come off the way I did. But my whole point about it was, I just don't like how people, take something that was from the manga or the anime, and they just stretch it on to something that actually doesn't, make sense in terms of context, right? And I found a post on Amino apps, and the reason why I found this in the first place was because someone on Twitter was saying like, oh, this is like the most popular like heterosexual like ship in Japan. And guess what? I Googled it and I couldn't find any information whatsoever. It wasn't there. And so I'm going to go ahead and just assume that that person's lying and they're trying to make up stuff that, further supports their their ship preferences. But because I couldn't find anything, I'm just going to go ahead and assume that the person is lying to just support their claims, even though it's not factual. And I found an Amino apps like post for the My Hero Academia like Amino like community like whatever, and there was like this whole post like about this person who ships T2 together, and they were giving examples, and some of the examples were in the fight during the sports festival arc when Uraraka and Bakugo were having their fight. Uraraka was down on the ground, and she kept persisting to go after him and trying to fight him. And the entire time, as she's like crawling on the ground trying to go and attack him, Bakugo is like looking at her, and he's like concerned, and his expression is that he's like a bit surprised, and etc. etc. And I didn't reply to the post or anything, but this is basically my reply to that post if the person does end up seeing it. I don't think the person was necessarily concerned and surprised because I don't think Bakugo was like concerned or surprised because like he all of a sudden like now cares for her. Like that's the reason why I talk about this and why I say it's stupid, because like people make it seem like all of a sudden like now Bakugo cares for her when that's not it whatsoever. You have to take it into reasonable context and have it make sense. Like some people don't have it make sense. Like in terms of context, the reason why he looks surprised and a sparkle of concern, as this post says, he's surprised because of her willingness to not give up. She's not giving up, and she's continuously trying to persist to go and attack him and fight him. So he's surprised by that, and he's surprised by her willingness and her strength to continue going and going. And he's concerned because she's already basically weak at this point, right? She's weaker than him. She's used up a lot of her strength and her energy, and she should just give up. And he's concerned that if this continues on any longer, and if he defends himself, he's gonna injure her very seriously, and he doesn't want that to happen. And people are gonna use that against myself, and they're gonna say, oh well, then that means like he cares for her, da 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 da, right? Like no, like he cares for her in the sense that he doesn't want to, hurt her and, in the limelight of everyone who's watching them fight, And then people also use the example of, in the fight itself, like in the same fight, he acknowledges her by her last name, Uraraka, right? And people have, took this as a way of, oh, if Bakugo calls someone by their name, that means he's acknowledging them for who they are and their strength, because no matter how strong, Midoriya is, no matter how strong Izuku is, and no matter what he does, he continues to call him Deku. He doesn't ever really call him by his name, like ever. And he continues to keep calling him Deku to this day, and in both the manga and in the anime. But he goes ahead and starts calling, Todoroki by his last name, Uraraka by his last name. I think even Kirishima by his last name, and he calls people, by their hero names, All Might, Midnight, Eraserhead, or like Azawa, because, that's their teacher and stuff. But, they take that as, now that he's calling Uraraka by her last name, that means, he's acknowledging her strength, and, he admires and, appreciates that, she shows that she's a lot stronger. And it's like, yeah, you can support that part of the whole argument, but don't make it seem like now, all of a sudden now he cares for her. Like, no, that's really dumb. Like, don't just assume like, oh, not now that he's calling her by her last name, like now like he's in love with her. Like that's what some people make it seem like, and that's really dumb. Like, make it make sense in context. Don't make it just seem like it's this way because you think it's that way. And then another part of the post says then his classmates were saying that he went too far with Uraraka and said she was fragile. He was a fragile girl. It's really unusual for Bakugo to defend someone. I've never seen him defend Kirishima at all yet, but he managed to defend someone who was his opponent and Deku's friend, right? And yeah, like whatever, right? Like all he did in context was acknowledge that she wasn't fragile, she wasn't frail, and she's actually a lot stronger, and she's a lot stronger than he actually, thought she was, right? And that's all it was, he just acknowledged her, for who she is, and for her cementing as becoming a hero. He thinks that she can't become a hero if she just tries much, much harder, right? And she can do it. He's acknowledging that, but that doesn't mean, he's in love with her now all of a sudden. Like, he has romantic interest for her all of a sudden. Like, no, that doesn't make any sense. And I saw this on Twitter, and I agree with the person with what they said, and I actually have my own spin on it as well. And in that next scene after the fight, when Deku tries to go and fight Uraraka in one of the what's it called? One of the locker rooms. Like, let's just say that. I don't know if it is like a locker room. It's more like a waiting room, but just like a locker room, right? He's trying to go find her. Deku's trying to go find her in the locker room. Deku and Bakugo end up finding each other, and all of a sudden Bakugo just immediately assumes that Deku was the one that came up with the plan, and he gave her the plan and the idea to do what she did in the fight, right? And Deku is the one that has to tell her that she was the one that came up with the plan in the first place. He had an idea, but she didn't accept it, and she went and fought on her own with her own idea, with what she had, in mind, with her quirk. Now, you can go ahead and just take this as you want, but what I take it as is he kind of insulted her intelligence in a way, because he just immediately assumes that it was Deku. Because those two are friends, he just immediately assumed that he went backstage or whatever and talked to her, gave her the idea, she accepted it, and used it against him, simply because they were friends, and that's it, right? But what the person in the post I saw on Twitter said is, she saw it as, Deku, just giving her advice to be able to go against Bakugo, right? Because someone had also said previously beforehand that, Deku was undermining her intelligence and this, that, whatever, yada, yada. No, that's not what happened whatsoever. He knows she's strong, and I have evidence that further proves that Deku thinks that she's really strong, and, he's confident in what she's able to do. But the reason why Deku went and tried to give her a plan, it's because that's just his character. His whole ideology is him trying to become the #1 hero and to surpass All Might and become the next symbol of peace. So doing this isn't out of character for Deku to do, not only because he wants to help her, but because she's his friend and he wants to support her in any way possible, right? And Bakugo doesn't acknowledge that whatsoever. He just immediately assumes that she wasn't smart enough to come up with that crazy of an idea, and just immediately assumed that Deku was the one that did it, and he gave her the idea to do it. Now, maybe that's just the way that I'm taking it. Maybe, maybe it's something else. Maybe it's just something that I'm not seeing. But that's how I'm perceiving it as, and I think it's the most logical and understandable one to, comprehend. And then this is in the manga. This is an extra scene in the manga that happens. It's not in the anime. It's only in the manga. And it's after the sports festival, right? And basically what happened is that Uraraka went and tried to talk to Bakugo, and she was basically just trying to, make him, stop arguing with Deku all the time. Because as we know, Deku and Bakugo fight all the time, and they're never friendly towards each other. All they do is, bicker and yell at each other, and they never work together, right? And that was the whole thing at the end of season 2 in the anime, and that was the reason why those two were put up against All Might, was because they were supposed to, work together as a team and get past the relationship that they currently have. Uraraka in the manga is basically just trying to do the same thing, but she's trying to talk to them and convince him to, lighten up a little bit and just act more friendly towards him, because she says in the manga panel, I mean, you were childhood friends and now you're in the same class. So I want you to stop yelling at each other and be friends again. She's not fucking talking to him because she cares for, she cares for this, that, or whatever. Yes, she's understanding, why he is the way he is. She understands, his ideologies and, how he is and etc. And I've seen that all over again and again and again. But the main reason why she was going over to talk to Bakugo and say this was, not to say he was fucking cool or whatever, because that's another argument that people are making as well. Because she called Bakugo fucking cool, that means she's immediately into him. No, people in the past have called Bakugo really fucking cool before. I was gonna use Deku as an example, but Deku calls everybody fucking cool. So you wanna know what a better fucking example is? All the filler characters in previous episodes from the first fucking episode in the beginning of the manga, in the fucking classroom that they were in before UA, and the entirety of this fucking childhood. every single time we get a flashback of Bakugo as a little fucking kid when he first got his quirk, all anyone ever did was suck him off. They kept saying like, "Oh, he's super cool. Oh, he was so cool when he fought against like those upperclassmen, those fourth graders or whatever fucking grade they were in. Like, oh, his quirk's so cool. He was so lucky that he got it. Yada yada yada." And like people would fucking compare him to Deku, and they would say like, "Oh, Deku's like not all that strong. He would never be able to go against Bakugo whatsoever." Yada yada. So people kept stroking his fucking ego. So Uraraka saying he was cool in their fight doesn't prove anything that she's into him. It doesn't do anything. All that scene was there for was to just show concern for Deku because, she cares for him and she's concerned for his safety, but just also show that she understands why Bakugo is the way he is and is just trying to convince him to, lighten up a little bit and just be more friendly towards, towards Deku. And that's all she wants. That's all she wants to happen, right? And there's a couple other things that I don't really remember off the top of my head. And I could mention it if I really wanted to or not, but I'm not really going to do it regardless. I think I'm just going to go ahead and just wrap it up here. I think I've, kind of rambled on for a lot longer than I needed to, honestly. And in my opinion, like I said, I'm going to try to word myself, properly this time. I don't think this is a good ship. I think it's a ship that doesn't make sense, that I don't think is going to happen, and I think people are just going to have to go ahead and just, face the fact that Izuku and Ochako are going to end up being together. And here is an example of why I think that's going to happen. Right, I can give example after example why Midoriya is like really into like Uraraka and like various other points, but here was the example that I was gonna mention before, and that stems from the professional licensing or provisional licensing exams. Right, remember that when it happened in the manga and the anime. Himiko Toga, when she was disguising herself as Kami, also disguised herself then into Uraraka. And I don't know if it's the same thing in the manga, but I'm just going off from the anime. Her disguising herself as Uraraka, she was just standing around not doing anything. She wasn't trying to fight against anyone, and Deku was the one that had to grab her and move her out of the fucking way because she wasn't doing anything. She wasn't trying to help others. She wasn't trying to fight against anyone. Nothing. And what Deku says further cements that he believes and has always believed that she was way stronger than anything anyone thought she was, right? It further cements that because he says like Uraraka wouldn't just stand around, she wouldn't do anything, she would go and try to help others, etc., etc. She wouldn't just stand there and do nothing, right? And that was the example that I was going to give off, right? But the biggest thing that Izuku and Ochako being together reminds me of is it reminds me of Naruto and Hinata, right? And I can go on and talk about why I like that ship, Naruto and Hinata, Naruhina. I can go on and say why I like that ship like so much and why I don't think Naruto would have been, nearly as happy if he ended up with Sakura, in my opinion, of course. But this ship reminds me so much of that, right? You have a female character who is in love with the main character. The main character is so oblivious and can't really, see, for himself that, female character is in love with him, right? But yet she still loves him anyways, no matter what. And she's going to support him no matter what. It's so similar at this point. The characters that I'm talking about are so similar. Naruto and Izuku are so strong and they're dependent and they want to help others, right? And yet they're so oblivious to, Hinata and Uraraka, respectively. They're so oblivious to the fact that they are in love with them, right? It just reminds me so much of that, why have it be so similar if it's not going to happen, And here was another thing that I mentioned to my friend on Snapchat the other day, or like yesterday, or Christmas Eve, actually. And what I said basically was, I don't like the whole like cliche of good girl falls for, really tough and / bad guy, right? And then he mentions to me, like they even made a song about it, like, like the whole like meme on TikTok where like the dude is like, "Why do girls fall for bad guys?" There's literally a song about it. So he kind of memed about it, but he was also like really serious about it because he actually agrees with me. He doesn't understand why people ship, you know, Bakugo and Uraraka. He doesn't understand it whatsoever. He agrees with me that it's so obvious that, you know, her and Izuku are going to end up being together by the end of the series. If you don't believe that, you're just either being delusional towards it, or you just really love the ship, and or you just really love the ship. I was about to say you really love the ship and just don't see it, but what should have been said is you just really love that ship and want nothing else, right? That's my whole opinion about it. I think I've kind of went on long enough than I probably should have been. I didn't even really want to make an entire like other video about this topic other than the first one, but I feel like I should have, you know, made another video and reworded myself and what I mean by what I say. But also, I just want to say right now, if you ship these two together and you don't care what anyone else says and you don't attack anyone, you know what? Round of applause. Good for you. If you ship these two together and you don't care what anyone else says, even if Izuku and Uraraka end up being together and that's canon and you still like the other ship, you know what? More power to you. If you like it more, you like it more, and I will not insult you for that. If you draw art for with those two together and you're doing it because you like it and you don't care what anyone else says, you know what? That's fine too. And another example is if you draw art and you know you do care what other people, or not really care, or you don't care if those two end up being together and you're just drawing it because you want people to see your work and, you know, request for more or request for something else. You know what? Again, more power to you. If you're trying to use something that's popular and to your advantage, go ahead and fucking do it. I don't care. It's one thing to do that. It's another thing when you're so blind and delusional to what actually is going to happen and you just won't accept it and you'll end up attacking other people for what they think, right? Because a lot of these people on Twitter, they were saying like some other stuff like, "Oh, do you not understand, like, oh, like if these two end up being together, she could potentially be like that catalyst to make him change and yada yada yada." But there's a whole thing called like a redemption arc that could happen for his character where he can just change on his own without anyone else's help. That's definitely possible, and that probably is going to happen. So if you don't think that's going to happen and you just want these two to be together because of that sole reason, you're sorely mistaken and you don't understand how shonen anime works, you know, mostly to some degree, right? If you just want these two to end up being together because they're adorable together because of some fan art that you've seen, again, you're just delusional and you're not understanding that of what actually is going to happen. You just won't accept reality, right? That's really annoying. Anyways, I'm gonna say it again. You know, I have kind of rambled on for long enough. I think I'm done talking about this. If you want me to make another fucking video about this, expect me to say no, because I'm not gonna fucking do it. Anyways, if you did enjoy the video for what it's worth, you know what? You know, leave a like. If you agree with me, leave a like. If you disagree with me, you know what? Leave a fucking dislike. I don't fucking care. If you want to leave your opinions about the bullshit, you know what? Leave your fucking opinions about the bullshit. I'm actually, you know, kind of interested to what you're gonna say. Anyways, I'll see you guys in the next one. Have a fantastic day. I'm out. Peace.
Got that